wasn't anything personal for me. I wasn't engaged in that. And so, um, reading the Bible all the way through, and again, not having like a pastor, but nobody to interpret it. I could just read it and interpret the words for how I understood them. So I took everything pretty literal, right? Um, but literal in the context of the entire book, not just literal. Like out here, I see people take little parts and pieces of different stuff and then say this is what it means, but there's a lot there. And so I think the timing of those two things, right? The reading through that and flirting with the idea that perhaps not all is lost, right? Like I'm still alive. Therefore, I suppose I still have options and I still have some capacity to make choices, or I will soon. And what am I going to do with that? Coupled with education and like, wow, maybe I got a decent head on my shoulders, right? So maybe I have some value in that regard too, So God, or whatever that looks like, maybe he or she or it or whatever, kind of cares about me, and so I have some value there, and maybe I'll have some value to society because I can get good grades in college, and college seems like something that's important, right? People value that. So I think that was helpful for me. But all that happened in like the last 9 months to a year of my term. Um, Before that, it's just kind of going through the motions.
It's crazy. You went through the whole process without. Well, I'm sure you had. Did you have like some faith, in yourself, or like what the future might hold, or was it not
No,
until you read the Bible and had like more?
no. When I went to prison, I expected to not ever come home. Even though my sentence was 10 years, I just assumed I'd be in there forever. And I kind of did my time that way. I didn't think about, wow, I'm going to go home, or what could I do to make this transition easier. Not that there was a lot of options. Anyways, I didn't focus on out there, really. Even in conversations with people, like when I would talk to my mom on visits or my sisters, I would hear about stuff they were doing, but and I would tell them kind of how things were going for me. They had an eye towards my release, but I never did. Um, Up until like that last year. And then I'm very scared because I didn't know. Like, I don't know what to expect. Right? I don't. My mom had come to a visit and put a dollar bill up on the glass because it's non-contact visits. She put a dollar bill up on the glass. And she goes, your sister got you a phone and it's smaller than that. And I was like, I don't get it. I had a phone for a little while, but it was a big brick flip phone with a Motorola, right? With like a rubber antenna and flips down. And it was huge. And very, very expensive. Right? Cost you $3 just if somebody calls you and you don't answer. It was crazy. And so I'm like, why are you gonna give me? Why is it so small? How do you? And so I didn't know anything, right? And I was fortunate. I had a place to parole too. But beyond that, I had no clue what is life gonna be like when I get out of here. And still didn't really know. Even as I was walking out, I didn't know what life was gonna be like. So.
So tell me about so after your 10 years, right? You served 10 years, and then you were released. What was that day like?
Oh wow. So you're not allowed to parole directly from Pelican Bay if you're validated. So you have to get transferred to the reception center that's closest to where you're paroling to in order to have your parole officer come pick you up. So normally if you parole, either somebody can come pick you up at the prison or, as part of your gate money. So as part of the money you get upon release, they'll take some of that and get you a bus ticket and they'll drive you to the bus station and wait there till you get on the bus going where you're going, right? That's not the process coming out of the SUIT program. You have to go to the reception center closest to where you're paroling to, and then your parole officer has to come pick you up and bring you to wherever you're going to be staying, right? Because it's a higher form of parole when you come out, and so normally if you parole, I think you have to meet up with your parole officer within the first 24 to 48 hours. But when you parole from the SUIT program, you got to meet with them within the first 2 hours. Well, you're not going to find your parole officer in 2 hours if you're 7 miles from the Oregon border, right? So I was in San Quentin. San Quentin releases people paroling in two waves, right? And I don't remember exactly what the times were, but there's an early one, and then there's one that's like just before lunchtime. And so the early time comes, and I hear them calling out for people to parole, and I'm not on the list. And I'm like, okay, well, I must be on the afternoon. And I was there for 3 days with no property. I got a Sudoku puzzle from the chaplain on a piece of paper. So I solved that and then spent the next couple of days trying to create a Sudoku puzzle for myself. But it's really hard to make a puzzle for yourself that you can't easily do because you're the one making the puzzle, right? It's like trying to make your own crossword puzzle. You kind of know where all the words are already. So, but that's all I had. I didn't have any books. I didn't have anything. And so the afternoon one comes by and I'm not on that list either. And technically the prison doesn't have to let you go on their release date. They can hold you for more days if they want to with no real justification. But I was like, why are they going to hold me? I'm ready to go home. And so my parole officer shows up like early afternoon, like 2 o'clock or something. And he goes, hey man, sorry, there was a paperwork mix up. I thought you were coming home on Monday. But then your mom called and has been harassing our office, and your sister's been harassing our office, and now I realized that I had messed up and that today's the day you're supposed to come. So I don't want to leave you hanging. You know, you've been down long enough. I came to get you. And I thought, man, I might have a cool parole officer, right? And I had clothes already there waiting for me. But I didn't know what size pants I wore. I hadn't worn pants in years. I didn't know what kind of clothes I wanted. I hadn't got to pick out clothes in even more years. So it's very weird putting on pants and a belt and my shoes. You know, they had a bunch of cushion in them, and I was like, this is odd. And just everything was weird. And my parole officer took me, he goes, because it's late in the day, and where my mom lived was right around the corner from the parole office. And so he says, you live close enough. I'm just going to drop you off at home, but then you got to come to the office tomorrow, you know, because I'm done for today. So he took me home to my mom's house. She was a different house. I'd never seen it before. She was married to a guy that she wasn't married to when I went to prison, so a lot different, right? And one of my sisters was there. And so I went and I walked in and I seen them and they gave me hugs and all happy. And then I went and stood in the front yard and I stayed standing in the front yard probably for hours. I would go inside, but then I just wanted to stand outside and everything looked bright. Like the grass looked neon. It looked like one of these TVs where the color adjustment is off, right? And all the colors are just a little too saturated. That's what everything seemed like. 'Cause I hadn't seen trees, I hadn't seen grass, I hadn't seen anything living like nature in a very, very long time. And so that was interesting to watch and just kind of watch the trees move. My dad was in jail at the time. And so he had called. I got that cell phone. It was like the little Metros, the early Metros. And so I got to talk to him. And I didn't know how to hold the phone. So I would hold it up to my ear and then hold it to my mouth like a walkie-talkie to talk. And my sister was like, just relax, bro. Hold it still. They can hear you. And so I was doing like the Can You Hear Me Now commercial, but before it ever came out. And yeah, I stood out there. Over the years, my mom and my sisters had bought me clothes. And so as the evening came, they said, what do you want for dinner? I'm like, I don't know, right? I don't know. I don't know anything. You know, I'm just here. Everything was very overwhelming. And I didn't sleep that night. So I stayed up all night. I tried on all the clothes that I had because I have a whole closet full of clothes that have been purchased over the course of the last several years. And so I'm looking at them and I'm trying them on and you know, how does this look? And does this fit me right? And this is too small and this is too big. And what the hell is this? And, you know, and I just couldn't sleep. It was like I was high. And yeah, that was my first day. I was introduced to the concept of texting. I don't know if you remember, but on those old Metro phones, texting was not particularly easy, right? You had to tap buttons like 2 or 3 times for certain letters. And I just fundamentally didn't understand the purpose of texting. Like, you have a phone in your hand, and you're typing a message to somebody else that has a phone in their hand. Why don't you just call them, and then you could say what you want to say, and they could answer or not, and then you can hang up? It seems much faster than this crazy thumb. Like, I don't get it. It took me a long time to understand all sorts of stuff, right? I didn't trust ATMs for a long time. Like, I wouldn't put a check in the ATM. So I was like, what if I just put a piece of paper in there? But I put in the thing, I put in $1 million. Is it just going to give me $1 million? That doesn't make any sense. I have to think someone else has thought of this before. So I don't trust it. What if they say, no, you didn't put a real check? But it is a real check. Then I'm just burnt. And so there was all kinds of stuff that was odd to me. And a lot of that I've gotten over. I text all the time now, right? Yeah, but that first day was a big adjustment. I talked to a couple people on the phone, not many. I think more people called to talk to me than who I really talked to. I was in kind of some other space, right? Like, I was there, but I wasn't really there. But at the same time, I was hyper aware of everything. It's the first time I'd used a fork in a really long time. I got stressed out because I saw a steak knife on the counter, and so I put that in the drawer, and then I cleaned the handle of the steak knife so that my fingerprints weren't on it. It just was odd. So I washed my socks and my boxers in the shower because that's what you do in prison, right? It's where you do your laundry at. And so my mom was like, you got to stop hanging up your underwear in the shower and your socks. Like, we have machines that do that. You don't need to do that. And like, you don't have to wash them every day. You could just put them in dirty clothes and get a whole new pair. Like, I don't get it, so you don't get, 7-10 pairs of socks and underwear in prison for a week, right? And so, there was a lot of adjustment there.
Crazy.
I'm gonna have to wrap just I have a class coming up.
Oh, for sure. What time is it? All right. Yeah, been talking for a while. Would you be free another time this week, just for something a lot shorter, like just like 30 minutes?
Here's a tricky thing.
Yeah.
So I work as a consultant, as a gang expert in criminal cases. I have a trial that's in progress already, and the attorney told me that he expects to call me Thursday.
Okay.
I don't know 100% if that's the case. If so, then I'm not going to be here because court's in San Jose. Sure. And then next week, which really sucks because it's our last week of instruction before Dead Week, he's saying that I should expect to be there probably most of the week.
Oh, okay.
And so I might have a week from Thursday.
Yeah.
I'll keep in touch with you, right?
Yeah,
Certainly, if something changes. I think while it's not exactly the same, I'd be up for talking over the phone too.
Yeah,
if you have some capacity to record that.
Yeah, there's definitely ways to record it, so that would be really great. Yeah, because I was asking so much about your upbringing and then in prison. I also want to hear about like your life now and your children and like what you're doing at Berkeley and like all of that and your legal work too.
Sure.
So that would be great to hear.
No problem.
So thank you so much.
No problem.
I was here for so long.
Thank you.
Questions.